Welcome back to the Obsession Engineering Garage, where today I'm just going to do a short video on how to clean the fuel filter in a Kawasaki fuel pump. I'm going to do it on a 2013 ZX10, but they're the same pump assembly realistically on Kawasaki's from about sort of 2006 onwards, and so they are a bit prone for blocking up the fuel filter, so I'm just going to take it out of the tank, take the pump apart and show you how to clean the filter. The first step is to find a well-ventilated space, because we're going to end up with quite a lot of petrol fumes around, and we're going to take the fuel pump assembly out of the bottom of the tank. Now, to make it easier, I have drained as much of the fuel as possible out of the tank, so I'm going to undo these 5 bolts and carefully lift the pump assembly out of the bottom of the tank. This is the fuel pump assembly out of the bike, so it just slots straight into the hole there. So I'm going to put that on the bench and take it apart. The first job is to disconnect these 2 wires, just trying to remember which way round they go, so it might be worth putting a little note on it or taking a photograph. I'm just going to get a tiny little thin blade screwdriver, push it underneath the end of the connector there and flick the connectors off. They do just slide in. So that's the electrical connectors disconnected. Next thing I need to do is take that screw out of there and the equivalent one out of the other side. With those 2 screws out, I can just lift this piece out and the wire goes down the other side of the pump, so that can just unclip from there. Sorry, a little bit fiddly one-handed. You can see there's a little clip here. I shall just pull the clip open and push the wire out the way. Now that I have the bolts out that actually hold it together, what I need to do is split the pump off the base, because the filter is down here in the base. So it's quite tight on its O-rings, so what I tend to do is split the top half off first. So I'm just going to get a flat blade screwdriver and gently lever it in both sides until it pops off here. But just note, there is an O-ring that connects into the top of the pump. There's actually 2 of them. Just be very, very careful you do not lose them. The O-rings that you can see here, they're quite tight, so it actually takes a little bit of effort to lever the top off, but just gently does it and bit by bit it will come off. So now I can, again this is easier two-handed, lift the top off like such, and you can see there's an O-ring up here that we really don't need to lose, and this one here, which again sometimes pops off when you take the lid off, so just put that down there out of the way. If you lose either of those, the fuel pump will not function properly. The next thing to do is just slide the rest of the pump assembly off the base. Again, apologies, this is considerably easier two-handed, but then it doesn't show you as much. Come on. Come to Dave. There you go. Right, that's off there. And that, underneath, that looks like a bit of a tea bag, is the fuel filter. The fuel filter is quite firmly fitted into the bottom of the fuel pump, so what you have to do is quite carefully lift it up a little bit. I try and then get a screwdriver in and very, very carefully flick the filter off the pump, just bearing in mind that if you actually put a hole through the tea baggy bit, then your filter won't filter anymore and you pretty much knacker the job up. Right, so I've carefully just flicked that off with a screwdriver sort of fed underneath it into here. And that is the fuel filter off the pump. Now, Kawasaki won't sell you the filter separately, but Suzuki will, and it's the same pump. So, if you need a new one, buy Suzuki. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get an airline, blow down the hole to blow any big lumps of dirt out, and just generally give it a bit of a blow over to remove any loose dirt. As you can see down here, there's a few bits of dirt that were sticking around the filter, so I'm going to give everything a good blow down, and then I can pop it back together. That's the filter blown out with an airline, so all I'm going to do is the complete opposite of what we've done before, is I shall turn this on its back, and I just need to push that into the fuel pump. Now the pump's trying to escape out the top, so push that back in, clip that into the fuel pump with a decent shove, and then I need to put that back onto here, and it will slide nicely over this pipe, and then put the O-rings back on and put the lid back on. That's the filter just pushed back onto the bottom of the pump. It just sort of clips on, and then you slide that back over the posts, refit that O-ring. This is the one that's really, really prone for coming out when you pop the lid off. It quite regularly comes out and falls on the floor. I have known people lose them before, and then understandably their bike doesn't run because the pump cannot create any pressure. And then I'm just going to flick that one out, pop that back onto there, and put the lid back on. Again, easier two-handed. There we go, that goes on there. The little post then drops down the back. That's your fuel level sender. So that's next step is to just put the screws back in and run the wires back down to the bottom. So that's the screws refitted. This one has the earth going to it. I've got the power connections the right way round. So that is ready to go back in the tank. Always worth checking this O-ring is in good condition, because if there's any damage on the O-ring, well, the fuel will leak out. And then we just, drop the pump back in, and there we go. Put the wire down there, behind that clip. Right, the holes will only line up in one direction, in one orientation, so you can't actually get it wrong. So I'm just going to put the bolts in and torque them down sort of opposite so that it pulls down square onto the O-ring, and that's it, done. So that's the fuel pump refitted. If when you put fuel in it you find that fuel leaks out of here before obviously you connect to the bike, or when you connect to the bike you get no fuel pressure, it's almost undoubtedly one of the two O-rings not sealing properly, so you have to take it all apart again and check your O-rings. But that's it. Job done. I'll put it on the bike and test run it. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this interesting, and stay tuned for more informative bike videos.